Item number SCP-002. Object class Euclid. Special containment procedures. SCP-002 is to remain connected to a suitable power supply at all times, to keep it in what appears to be a recharging mode. In case of electrical outage, the emergency barrier between the object and the facility is to be closed and the immediate area evacuated. Once facility power is re-established, alternating bursts of X-ray and ultraviolet light must strobe the area until SCP-002 is re-affixed to the power supply and returned to recharging mode. Containment area is to be kept at negative air pressure at all times. Teams including a minimum of 2 members are required within 20 meters of SCP-002 or its containment area. Personnel should maintain physical contact with one another at all times to confirm there is another person present, as perception may be dulled, skewed, or influenced by proximity to the object. No personnel below Level 3 are permitted within SCP-002. This requirement may be waived via written authorization from 2 off-site Level 4 administrators. Command staff issued such a waiver must be escorted by at least 5 Level 3 security personnel for the duration of their contact, and must temporarily surrender their rank and security clearance. Following contact, command staff will be escorted at least 5 kilometers from SCP-002 to undergo a 72-hour quarantine and psychological evaluation. If deemed fit for return to duty by psych staff, rank and security clearance may be restored when quarantine expires. Description: SCP-002 resembles a tumorous, fleshy growth with a volume of roughly 60 square meters. An iron valve hatch on one side leads to its interior, which appears to be a standard low-rent apartment of modest size. One wall of the room possesses a single window, though no such opening is visible from the exterior. The room contains furniture which, upon close examination, appears to be sculpted bone, woven hair, and various other biological substances produced by the human body. All matter tested thus far show independent or fragmented DNA sequences for each object in the room. Refer to the Mulhausen report, Crossref document 00.023.603 for details related to object's discovery. Reference: to date, subject has been responsible for the disappearances of 7 personnel. It has also in its time at the facility further furnished itself with 2 lamps, a throw rug, a television, a radio, a beanbag chair, 3 books in an unknown language, 4 children's toys, and a small potted plant. Tests with a variety of lab animals, including higher primates, have failed to provoke a response in SCP-002. Cadavers as well fail to produce any effect. Whatever process the subject uses to convert organic matter into furnishings is apparently only facilitated by the introduction of living humans. View Mulhausen Report, Doc ID 00.023.603, Mulhausen Report 00.023.603. The following is a brief report detailing the discovery of SCP-002. Subject was discovered in a small crater in northern Portugal, where it struck the Earth from orbit. Encased in a shell of thick rock, the fleshy exterior of the object was exposed by the impact. A native farmer happened upon the site and reported his findings to the village elder. Subject gained SCP attention when a Level 4 agent posted in the area detected a small radioactive anomaly generated by the object. A collection squad of SCP security personnel, led by General Mulhausen, was immediately dispatched to the area where they quickly secured the subject in a large container and performed initial testing with subjects recruited from the nearby village. 3 men individually sent into the structure subsequently disappeared. Upon discovering this deadly property of the subject, General Mulhausen issued a Level 4 termination order of any witnesses, roughly 1/3 of the village, to ensure no outside knowledge of the object and initiated its transport to SCP facility, data expunged. During preparation for transport, 4 SCP security personnel were inexplicably drawn inside the object, where they too immediately disappeared. Following inspection, it appeared as if the object had grown several new furnishings and was beginning to look like the interior of an apartment room. General Mulhausen immediately ordered the requisition of several Class 3 hazmat suits for the remaining security team members, who proceeded to lift the container onto a waiting freight ship for transport to the SCP containment facility. Data expunged. Data expunged. Following the termination of General Mulhausen, SCP-002 was resecured by SCP staff and brought into special containment in Classified, where it currently resides. Staff with clearance below Level 3 have been denied access to the SCP-002 container, without prior approval of at least 2 Level 4 staff after the Mulhausen incident. Item Number SCP-003. Object Class Euclid. Special Containment Procedures. SCP-003 is to be maintained at a constant temperature of no less than 35 degrees Celsius, and ideally kept above 100 degrees Celsius. No living multicellular organisms of Category 4 or higher complexity may be allowed to come into contact with SCP-003. In event of total power failure, if SCP-0031 begins to increase its mass, assigned personnel must engage in skin contact with SCP-0031. Ideally, personnel may use their body heat to return SCP-0031 to above the critical temperature. However, skin contact must be maintained even in event of SCP-003 reaching activation temperature, lasting at minimum until SCP-0031 advances fully to its second growth stage. Personnel who enter SCP-003's containment area must first be examined for body parasites of Category 4 or higher complexity, and sterilized if such organisms are present. All personnel who have come in physical contact with SCP-0031 are to immediately report for sterilization afterwards. SCP-0031 must not be removed from SCP-0032, except in case of emergency procedures detailed above. Any significant change in SCP-0032's rune activity, including pattern, frequency, or color, should be reported within 3 hours of occurrence. Cessation of rune activity must be reported immediately. SCP-0032 must be supplied with power via the source designated Generator 0039 at all times. Description: SCP-003 consists of 2 related components of separate origin, referred to as SCP-0031 and SCP-0032. SCP-0031 appears to be composed of chitin, hair, and nails of unknown biology, arranged in a configuration similar to that of a computer motherboard. Testing reveals SCP-0031 to predate earliest known circuit boards by a factor of thousands of years. SCP-0031 is considered sentient, but not actively dangerous except under certain conditions. SCP-0031 was found on a stone tablet, SCP-0032, on which it currently resides. The runes on SCP-0032 are not part of any known language and emit pale, flickering light patterns. SCP-0032 is controlled by a non-biological internal computer, the contents of which are mostly inaccessible without risk of damaging SCP-0032. SCP-0032 is capable of controlled emissions of radiation, including heat, light, and anomalous radiation types. SCP-0032 contains an internal power source of an anomalous nature, which appears to have been losing power since several centuries before discovery. It is considered probable that SCP-0032 was created for the purpose of containing SCP-0031. Partially interpreted data recovered from SCP-0032 may refer to a past and/or potential future LK-class restructuring event caused by SCP-0031. SCP-003 was located by Remote Viewing Team SRV-04 Beta. It appears possible that SRV-04 Beta was deliberately contacted by SCP-0032. Other organizations have also been alerted to SCP-003's existence, possibly by similar means. Despite this activity, SCP-0032 does not appear to be sentient, based on its lack of reaction to M03 Gloria analysis and procedures. When SCP-003 drops below the temperature of 35 degrees Celsius, both components react. First, SCP-0031 enters a growth state characterized by an exponential increase in mass. This growth state consists of 2 stages. In both stages, SCP-0031 partially fuels its growth by converting matter around it, starting with any surrounding inorganic material, including atmospheric elements, then non-living organic material, including cells of dead skin, hair, chitin, enamel, keratin, and other biological materials. The first stage is always the same. SCP-0031 will first increase its mass, then take a form similar in shape to an ophiuroid, brittle star, of 15 meters in diameter, including what appears to be a central processor of 3 meters in diameter. It will form sensory organs that appear to scan its surrounding environment, and will partially convert the area around it to an unidentified anomalous substance. SCP-0032 seems immune from conversion. The second stage describes a growth alteration, which occurs when SCP-003 comes into contact with living organic material. SCP-003 appears to template itself off of the organic material, and will attempt communication with organisms that match its initial template or templates. In its second stage, SCP-0031 may pause, slow, or change its growth, and will also convert inorganic and non-living organic elements into functionally similar structures, while anomalously altering their physical makeup. While growth is consistent in the first stage, in the second stage, SCP-0031's growth rate is diminished by 20 to 90%, so long as SCP-0031 remains in contact with living organic material. The percentage is determined by the complexity of the organisms in contact with SCP-0031. SCP-0031 appears to devote a large amount of processing power to analysis of living organic material. During each of SCP-0031's growth stages, SCP-0032 releases bursts of radiation that temporarily inhibit SCP-0031's growth, or reverse this growth when the temperature of SCP-0031 rises above 100 degrees Celsius. Similar radiation emissions have been replicated or recorded via other anomalous means. SCP-0031's biology has been the subject of extensive study. Significant elements have been identified similar to SCP-1512 and SCP-2756, the latter two of which have no further confirmed connection with SCP-0031 and no known connection with each other, and none of which are fully understood, technically even less understood than SCP-003, thanks to the extensive cross-disciplinary research on the SCP-003 objects. To date, no convincing analysis has been put forward which satisfactorily explains SCP-0031's connection to these SCP objects or others, nor its connection to modern technology beyond appearance, and potential mimicry via unknown mechanism. Addendum 00301, acting on information gathered from linguistic analysis of SCP-0032's runes and comparative data analysis. Research Team M. 03 Gloria has managed to establish a link between SCP-003 and data expunged for analysis of functions. SCP-0031 must now be considered sentient, and is to be kept a minimum of 1 kilometer from data expunged and the resulting byproduct at all times. Addendum 00302. SCP-0032's power loss has been exacerbated by the procedures performed by M03 Gloria. On orders of 0510, M03 Gloria will continue procedures. Addendum 00303. During M03 Gloria procedures, SCP-0031 doubled its mass and began rapid structural growth. Temperature was immediately returned to 100 degrees Celsius. Growth and mass increase of SCP-0031 continued for 9 minutes and 6 seconds, at which time a sustained radiation spike was produced by SCP-0032. In response, SCP-0031 returned to its normal state in 3 minutes and 39 seconds. New growth dissolved into a dusty residue which was collected for analysis. Both SCP-0031 and SCP-0032 ceased all detectable activity. SCP-0032 did not resume activity until connected to external power source. SCP-0032's runes glowed uniformly gray and did not resume normal activity for 3 hours. SCP-0032 no longer appears to be able to maintain containment area at a temperature above 35 degrees Celsius without external power supplied by generators 0033 through 9. Addendum 00304. The procedure detailed in Addendum 00303 was repeated, and SCP-0031 again entered a growth state. After 10 minutes and 13 seconds, SCP-0032 once again produced a sustained radiation spike. SCP-0031's growth stopped for 36 seconds, then resumed at its previous pace. On quadrupling its mass, SCP-0031 formed a coherent outer shell and body. After appearing to scan its environment and partially converting its environment, SCP-0031 then breached containment, entering the observation gallery where 9 members of M03 Gloria were present. On physical contact with team members, SCP-0031 encompassed them in rapidly grown appendages and stopped growth for 15 minutes. SCP-0031 then resumed growth and rearranged the component parts of the center of its form to the shape of a 3-meter-tall female humanoid, with peripheral tentacles shifting to extrude primarily from SCP-0031's newly formed hair and spine. SCP-0031 then produced rudimentary vocalizations in an apparent initial attempt to communicate with researchers. Data expunged. An unknown individual approached the compromised containment area in company of a full squad of agents. The individual claimed to be acting on orders of 0510 and attempted communication with SCP-0031. Data expunged. Following this incident, Agent Jackson of M03 Gloria successfully restored power to SCP-0032 and activated backup generators to return the temperature to 100 degrees Celsius. SCP-0031 returned to its normal state in 21 minutes and 7 seconds and was successfully recontained without incident. All 9 members of M03 Gloria affected by SCP-0031 were afterwards found to be physically unharmed with no residual effects besides psychological trauma. The converted materials of SCP-003's former containment area did not dissolve and are now under analysis. Addendum 00305. In light of the previous incident, 0510 was removed from the 05 Council by joint decision of 05, 05, and 05. M03 Gloria procedures have been indefinitely suspended. Special Access Program M03 Gloria required. Access granted. Display files. Transcript of Incident Report A21B, Cycle 8. For dissemination to 05 Command and Staff. Interviewers and present 052, 055, 057, 0510, and staff. Interviewed Dr. Tilda David Moose, M03 Gloria Lead. Excerpt 35A. She tried to talk to us. We all heard her voice in our heads, in a sort of half-language we couldn't fully understand. Some of the others passed out immediately. I lasted a little longer, but it wasn't because of mental fortitude. It's just that she was trying to tell us different things. She showed Jones a replay of all the memories of everything Jones ever felt anything about, all over the course of a few minutes. She ripped 3 of the researchers apart and put them back together unharmed. She doesn't understand human emotion or pain, or very much about how we experience the world. Yes, I would say the containment procedures are necessary. Listen, she wants to remake the world into a paradise. A paradise filtered through her own alien understanding of paradise, but still, a paradise designed for us, for humanity. She would be happy to make a paradise for any sufficiently complex organism she comes across first. Anything with a complex enough mind to accept her. Say, a dog or a housefly. If she breaches again, we have to be there first. What would it be like? I don't know. She showed us images, not quite images. I can see them in my head, but they're not pictures. The closest thing I can think of is what you see when you close your eyes suddenly and tightly, but brighter and more complex. The images had metallic sounds associated with them, and sensory details that we don't have the words or concepts to describe. The whole effect felt like words of some kind. I believe she wanted to see what we could understand, so she could understand us. She didn't have time to finish analyzing us. I don't know what would have happened if she had. Item number SCP-004. Object class Euclid. Special containment procedures. When handling items, SCP-0042 through SCP-00413. Proper procedure is vital. The items are not permitted to be moved off-site unless accompanied by 2 Level 4 security personnel. Under no circumstances should any other component of SCP-004 be taken through SCP-0041. The effects of doing so are as yet unknown, and the current cost of experimentation makes further research impractical. Should any of the objects contained within SCP-0041 breach containment, or the facility be breached, the keys must be brought inside and the door closed prior to activation of Site-62's on-site warhead. Unauthorized removal of keys from the testing area is grounds for immediate termination. Level 1 clearance is required for basic access to SCP-0041. Level 4 clearance is required for use of SCP-0042-13. Description: SCP-004 consists of an old wooden barn door, SCP-0041, and a set of 12 rusted steel keys, SCP-0042 through SCP-00413. The door itself is the entrance to an abandoned factory in data expunged. Chronological history: July 2, 1949. A group of 3 juveniles trespassing on federal property near find the door. According to their testimony, they found a set of rusted keys in an iron lockbox and determined what door the keys unlock. The juveniles are taken into custody after they contact sheriff when one of their friends, SCP-004-CAS-01, goes missing. July 3, 1949. Local authorities find the severed right hand of SCP-004-CAS-0, 18 kilometers from SCP-0041. Other parts of SCP-004-CAS-01's body are found scattered as far as 32 kilometers from the factory. Under interrogation, the apprehended juveniles tell authorities that upon opening the door with one of the keys, SCP-004-CAS-01 was torn into several pieces, each of which disappeared. At this point, the SCP Foundation takes over the investigation. July 4, 1949, SCP Agent obtains the keys from the local authorities to begin testing. Tests show that SCP-0042 through SCP-00413 all fit into a single lock on the large barred door. 12 Class D personnel are assigned to test the effects of the door. Of the 12 test subjects, each trying a different key to enter the room, only 2 survive. Opening the door with any key except SCP-0047 or SCP-00412 caused the test subjects to be torn apart in multiple directions. However, no dismembered parts were found until later. At the time of writing, only 2 parts of each subject have been recovered, with the exception of the subject using SCP-004, whose pieces were scattered in close proximity. The others have, for all intents and purposes, vanished from existence. Of the 2 surviving subjects, only one, having used SCP-0047, returned unharmed. The other came back in a near catatonic state, able only to remove himself from the room and then collapse on the floor, and had to be restrained to prevent him from gouging out his eyes. See Appendix A, Mental Health Effects of SCP-004. The subject using SCP-0047 said that he had entered a large room, impossibly big for the size of the attached building. After his exit, SCP-0041 was propped open, and an armed squad of Level 3 personnel entered. The size of the room is impossible to measure, and the doorframe and the individuals in the room are the only part of the room that can be felt or illuminated. July 16, 1949. The juvenile suspects and sheriff are terminated. August 2, 1949. Is declared a hazardous area due to unexploded ordnance, and fences erected in order to prevent civilian ingress. Tests to determine safety of exposure to environment behind SCP-041 begin. December 1, 1950. Space-time anomalies resulting from exposure to SCP-004 are confirmed. Testing is suspended until further notice. June 2, 19. The unaccounted for remains of SCP-004-CAS-01 appear unexpectedly outside SCP-0041. Despite being killed decades before, the remains of SCP-004-CAS-01 are not decomposed in any manner and are still warm to the touch. Blood remains uncoagulated. The remains are remanded for testing. June 4th, 19. The unaccounted for remains of one of the 12 original test subjects appear in similar manner to those of SCP-004-CAS-01. The remains have been designated SCP-004-CAS-02. Records suggest that both SCP-004-CAS-01 and CAS-02 used SCP-004. March 21, 1999. With the massive proliferation of nuclear weapons and World War III only years away, construction has begun on a site inside SCP-0041. The site is to stock supplies for person days. April 21, 1999, has ordered the site inside SCP-0041 to be expanded to include emergency storage for all mobile SCP specimens and a petabyte database for the storage of all SCP data. The facility is now referred to as Site-62. September 25, 2000. Site-62 is operational. Labs and containment units are complete and can contain the most dangerous specimens. Backup of the SCP database has begun. January 25, 2001, due to time anomalies, see space-time anomalies below, all personnel working at Site-62 are now required to reside on-site permanently. Families of personnel are to be informed that loved ones perished in an industrial accident. Cloned bodies have been prepared for funeral. August 14, 2003, massive power outage across northeast United States and through Canada. Due to the initial failure of multiple SCP generators, Site-62 was without power for 53 minutes. During those 53 minutes, those on site were completely without any source of light. They reported sensing creatures and people, although no abnormal entities could be seen or felt. Selected facility personnel were allowed to read Appendix A and said the creatures sensed were of humanoid size, but otherwise similar to the massive green creature described. Space-time anomalies. SCP-004 seems to propagate spatio-temporal anomalies. Personnel leaving the facility report losing time. Those who have been in the site for weeks insist that they had only been in the facility for several days, and records of work completed and supplies consumed support their claims. Other temporal anomalies involve SCP-004-2-13, especially the reappearance of SCP-004-CAS-01 and SCP-004-CAS-02 exactly. Years after using SCP-004, has been assigned to investigate all aspects of these time anomalies. Spatial anomalies include the impossibly large dimensions of the area opened by SCP-0047. Similarly, the 2003 blackout incident suggests that there exists an alternate plane of existence within the same space that Site-62 occupies. Additional notes. Testing on SCP-004 reveals that 10 of the keys open SCP-0041 on a dimension where the laws of physics and topology are significantly different than those of our home dimension. Test subjects meeting these hostile conditions are torn apart, their body parts deposited in various locations, only 3 of which have been verified to be on Earth. Material deposited at 2 of these points appears immediately. Material deposited at the 3rd appears exactly, years into the future. The other 7 locations are currently unknown. Current testing focuses on 2 avenues of research. The first is finding ways to survive SCP-004's hostile topologies. The second, data expunged, suggests that SCP-0042-13 may open doors other than SCP-0041. Appendix A. Mental health effects of SCP-00412. All Class D personnel using SCP-00412 return in a catatonic state, unable to speak. Some may have enough energy left to try to claw out their eyes. Of the 16 subjects, only 4 have survived. Only 1 has regained speech, following long-term psychotherapy. He was able to tell the psychiatrist that he saw a massive green creature, so large that much of its body extended beyond his field of view. He reported innate fear and sudden recognition, as if it were something buried deep in his primal fears, and forced implantation of incomprehensible memories. Subject displays acute anterograde and retrograde amnesia. Appendix B, additional information, item number SCP-00414, date of discovery, September 2, 1950. Origin of object. Object was discovered elsewhere in factory area, in the previously undiscovered manager's office. Description. Object appears as a large unvarnished wooden box. The box may be unlocked by the safe key, SCP-0047, as well as 5 of the unsafe keys. See document SCP-0041. Upon unlocking SCP-00414 with SCP-0047, the box opens automatically on hinges. The volume of the space inside is precisely 5 times greater than the outer dimensions imply. Items placed within while the lid remains open do not affect the weight or any other properties of the box. When the lid is closed and locked, however, all items inside vanish irretrievably. Personnel locked inside the box are also irretrievable, although losing personnel in this fashion appears to affect significantly the dreams experienced by data expunged. Item number SCP-005. Object Class Safe. Special Containment Procedures. SCP-005 poses no immediate risk in any direct sense. Even so, its unique functions require special measures be taken to restrict access and manipulation of the object. Approval of at least 1 Level 4 personnel is required for the removal of the object from its containment area. Description. In appearance, SCP-005 resembles an ornate key, displaying the characteristics of a typical mass-produced key used in the 1920s. The key was discovered when a civilian used it to infiltrate a high-security facility. SCP-005 seems to have the unique ability to open any and all forms of lock, see Appendix A, be they mechanical or digital, with relative ease. The origin of this ability has yet to be determined. Additional notes. SCP-005 may be used as a replacement for lost security passes, but only under the supervision of at least 1 Level 4 personnel. SCP-005 may not be used for vending machine repairs, opening lockers, or for any personnel's spare home key. Removal of the object from the compound will result in immediate termination. Appendix A. While SCP-005 has been shown to be effective in removing almost any form of locking device, further experiments have shown that efforts to disguise the purpose or identity of a lock have proven at least somewhat successful in defeating SCP-005's ability. In approximately 50% of cases where a volunteer was not able to identify a locking device as such, SCP-005 was not successful in deactivating the device. Due to these results, SCP-005 has been tentatively classified as sentient, and further tests are being run to determine its cognitive abilities. However, there are no results that show any traits that prevent it from being able to identify any particular locking device, only that the aforementioned device has been heavily concealed and disguised. Under direct orders of the Founder, access is limited to those with Overseer clearance. Overseer clearance granted. Item number SCP-006. Object Class Safe. Special Containment Procedures. Whereas the nature of SCP-006 does not warrant any extensive containment, a certain level of secrecy is necessary regarding the object's existence and properties for obvious reasons. The following procedures are required not for personnel safety, but to deny or hide knowledge of SCP-006's effects from the personnel who interact with it. 1. All personnel interacting with SCP-006 in any physical way are required to wear modified Class 6 B and C suits. Before personnel are allowed to perform procedures, they must be briefed with material SCP-006-B or SCP-006-C. SCP-006-A briefing is the correct one and is restricted to only those with O5 clearance. To ensure personnel are wearing suits properly, they are to be submerged into a pool of water. Any air bubbles spotted signify a leak in the suit. 2. Procedures with SCP-006 are to be carried out under extreme surveillance. In case of contact with SCP-006, the commander in charge will announce Procedure 006-XI-12, which the personnel have been briefed to believe to mean high toxicity is present and they must evacuate. 3. Any procedure in which liquid is acquired from SCP-006 must be approved by 305 level personnel. The liquid is to be transferred in a quad sealant container and under armed guard. 4. If at any time personnel come into contact with SCP-006 or liquid from SCP-006, they are to be confined and terminated after sufficient studies are done. Due to the nature of SCP-006, the most effective termination method is incineration. For full report, see file SCP-006-05. Description: SCP-006 is a very small spring located 60 kilometers west of Astrakhan. Foundation Command was aware of its existence since the 19th century, but were unable to secure it until 1991 due to political reasons. On the spot of the spring, a chemical factory has been constructed as a disguise, with the majority of laborers under Foundation and/or Russian control. The liquid emitted from the spring has been chemically identified as simple mineral water in 1902, but has the unusual property of health. Ingesting the liquid produces the following properties in human beings: the ability to regenerate DNA damaged by sufficient duplication, heightened excitement of cellular duplication, vastly improved abilities in the repair of damaged tissue, and a frightening increase in the effectiveness of the human immune system. Upon testing the liquid on animal subjects, hostile bacteria and viral agents were destroyed immediately. Many reptiles and birds were unaffected, while higher primates experienced the same benefits as humans. Item Number: SCP-007. Object Class: Euclid. Special Containment Procedures: SCP-007 is to be contained in a sealed room measuring 10 meters on each side. Room is to be furnished comfortably as a living area, along with whatever items are requested by, hereafter referred to as subject. Given that providing subject with requested items would not compromise security, subject is not to be allowed to leave the room and is to be detained with force if necessary. Description: SCP-007 is located within a cavity in the abdomen of subject. Subject is a Caucasian male, physically approximately 25 years of age, subject claims to be 28, and 176 centimeters in height. Most of subject's abdomen, muscles, skin, and organs is absent, though subject does not appear to suffer because of this. Instead of normal flesh, a sphere composed of soil and water is present, though it does not actually come into contact with subject's body at any point. The sphere appears to be, in most respects, a miniature near duplicate of the Earth, approximately 60 centimeters in diameter, although continental alignment is not consistent with that of any alignment known in Earth's history. The sphere has its own weather patterns and negligible gravitational pull, in addition to microscopic organisms somewhat resembling those of modern-day Earth inhabiting it. 2 intelligent species have been observed, though contact and communication with either has yet to be made. Technology levels of observed species must be checked at least once a week and, as of, are approximately equal to that of 15th century Earth. Subject claims to be named, but no records of such a person can be found. Subject does not require food or water, and while he has been observed consuming both, what happens to such substances after being swallowed is unknown. Subject is intelligent, IQ has been measured at 128, and amiable, and regards the planet in his abdomen as a minor curiosity about his body. Subject seems to experience no stress about his unusual condition. When questioned about planet's origins, subject replied, "I just woke up one day and there it was. I don't have any idea how it got there." Subject has provided a social security number and driver's license number and requested that they be checked against known records. When checked, it was discovered that neither had yet been allocated. Dr. has a weekly chess game with subject, during which subject's mental health is evaluated. Dr. reports that subject does not seem to mind the restricted living environment and has yet to attempt to escape or show signs of violence or mental illness, though he has repeatedly requested a computer with an internet connection. It is recommended that this not be provided, as it may be used to compromise security. By order of the Overseer Council, This file is subject to Level 4 classification. Level 4. Clearance is required. Please input security credentials. Security clearance adequate. Accessing file. Item number SCP-008. Object class Euclid. Special containment procedures. SCP-008 samples have been deemed Class 5 extreme biological hazards, and all related protocols apply. Incineration and irradiation measures will be deployed in the event of political or military action, which may result in the facility being dismantled, a power failure, or zero communications from operatives or outside channels during any given 8-hour period. The quarantine period for operatives leaving the facility is 4 months. If a breach has occurred, incineration and irradiation measures shall be deployed. It should be the policy of all G2 sites to not prepare an evacuation procedure. Description: SCP-008 is a complex prion, samples of which are stored in each of the known G2 sites. Research into SCP-008 is highly classified and primarily aimed at preventing research, which may lead to the synthesis of SCP-008 in the distant future. Traits of the SCP-008 prion include 100% infectiousness, 100% lethality, transmission through exposed mucous membranes and all bodily fluids, not airborne or waterborne. Symptoms of infection with SCP-008 manifest no more than 3 hours after exposure and include flu-like symptoms with high fever, plus severe dementia in later stages. Coma onset approximately 20 hours after first symptoms appear, and 12 hours after noticeable dementia. Coma onset will be considered onset of death. A period of sporadic cellular necrosis occurs which comes to resemble gangrene. Surviving tissue assumes its original function and is highly resilient. Red blood cells greatly increase oxygen storage capacity, resulting in slower blood flow and increased muscle endurance and strength. Nervous and muscular systems are unaffected by total organ failure for several hours. Metabolism may decrease to extremely low levels, allowing subject to survive for over 10 years without nutrition. High blood viscosity results in negligible blood flow from gunshot, puncture, and slashing injuries. Conditioned behavior, motor controls, and instinctive behavioral mechanisms are damaged, and cognitive abilities are severely retarded and erratic. Animals experience excessive brain necrosis and are inactive. Subject can adapt to its damaged nervous systems, but is limited to basic physical activities, including standing up, balancing on 2 legs, walking, biting, grabbing, and crawling. Subject will energetically move towards sights, sounds, and smells it associates with living humans. Subject will attempt to ingest living humans if physical contact is made. Neutralizing fully infected subjects requires significant cranial trauma. There is strong evidence to suggest SCP-008 itself did not form naturally on Earth, since variants of similar complexity would have displaced much of the ecosystem. In 1959, a short collaborative effort with the USSR to locate G2 sites and eliminate SCP-008 was negotiated following their discovery. The status of SCP-008 in Russian custody since collaboration ended is unknown. Addendum 0081. SCP-500 has been found to be able to completely cure SCP-008, even in the advanced stages of the disease. Item number SCP-009. Object class Euclid. Special containment procedures. Object is to be contained within a sealed storage tank of heat-resistant alloy with dimensions not less than 2 meters by 2 meters by 2 meters. Under no circumstances should SCP-009 be exposed to temperatures in excess of 0 degrees Celsius when not undergoing testing, and no water-based solutions shall be allowed within 30 meters of the object's containment area. Object's chamber is to be fitted with temperature sensors which must be monitored at all times and is to be kept refrigerated by no fewer than 3 redundant cooling units. Any malfunction of sensors or of coolant systems is to be reported and repaired immediately. If at any time the temperature in the containment area climbs above -5 degrees Celsius, the chamber is to be locked down and flooded with coolant until temperatures return to safe levels, -30 degrees Celsius to -25 degrees Celsius. Containment area is to be kept in total vacuum during testing, and personnel interacting with SCP-009 must wear full environmental protection gear. Following testing, all equipment, personnel, and other materials must undergo dehydration procedures and be quarantined for no less than 12 hours. Any moisture found displaying properties of SCP-009 is to be quarantined and added to the containment area as soon as possible. Living organisms found to be contaminated by SCP-009 are to be terminated by chemical desiccation, and extracted molecules of SCP-009 added to containment. Description: SCP-009 is approximately liters of a substance which superficially resembles distilled water, H2O, except with a distinct bright red hue. This red hue is discernible in all phases, and serves as the most expedient method of identifying contaminated matter before its anomalous properties manifest. In contrast to mundane water, SCP-009 assumes a liquid phase at temperatures between -100 degrees Celsius and 0 degrees Celsius, and a solid state above those temperatures. At temperatures below -100 degrees Celsius, SCP-009 vaporizes into a gaseous phase similar to steam. Examinations of the atomic structure of SCP-009 have proved inconclusive. The substance appears to be identical to normal water molecules, with the exception of redacted, in contrast to standard laws of enthalpy. Dr. Site's resident expert on xenospatial physics suggests that SCP-009 may originate in a universe with alternate physical laws. The most hazardous property of SCP-009, however, is its ability to contaminate normal H2O. When in contact with any aqueous solution, SCP-009 will, through unknown mechanisms, transfer its anomalous properties to other objects and creatures. Testing has shown it capable of assimilating ice, steam, tea, fruit juice, seawater, blood, and data expunged. The time it takes for this process to occur varies depending on temperature and the exact chemical composition of affected matter, and had been observed as taking between 3 minutes and hours. Experiments on D-Class personnel have illustrated the process of conversion by the substance, which has been found to follow a consistent pattern. 1. Initial exposure. Subject is exposed to SCP-009, and it begins assimilating any moisture present on the exposed surface. Creatures in this stage do not commonly notice any unusual symptoms except for a slight warming sensation. 2. Surface conversion. Frost begins to form on the exposed area as the heat produced by the subject and SCP-009 itself raises its temperature above 0 degrees Celsius. This stage can take anywhere from 1 minute to hours, during which time subjects begin to feel redacted crystals from the epidermis. 3. Deep tissue conversion. Exponential increase in temperature of SCP-009 causes runaway reaction throughout subject's body, resulting in redacted. Actual blood loss is minimal due to ice crystals, redacted, allowing subjects to remain alive and conscious for up to hours. 4. Data expunged. Testing on D-Class personnel was discontinued as of April 23, 2000. Addendum: circumstances of retrieval. Subject was found in Alaska on November 5, 19. The Foundation became involved after reports were obtained from the native tribe, who came across the mangled bodies of a team of seal hunters which had apparently been shipwrecked kilometers from the village. All victims were found encased in red ice. Cause of death recorded as internal bleeding, though closer examination found redacted. It is surmised that the low ambient temperatures in the area retarded the freezing process. This prolonged the time to total conversion by hours and allowed the victims to remain conscious until data expunged. Origin of SCP-009 is currently unknown. Investigation into similar events or materials in the area is ongoing. Evidence at the scene suggests redacted, possibly involving SCP. See Exploration Log A0091 for details. Addendum: November 9, 19. After initial report and retrieval of specimens, it was confirmed that the arachnoid entity found by MTF-B7, see attached file, was indeed a previously unknown instance of SCP-3023. Investigation has revealed the instance originated in redacted as a result of data expunged. Addendum, December 6th, 19. After repeated inquiries, it should be noted that the portion of coastline upon which the initial victims were found was barren rock approximately meters from the seashore and was sufficiently dry and cold to prevent significant contamination of the surrounding area. Had the site been closer to the water, there is little doubt an extinction-level event would have ensued. Consideration of upgrading SCP-009 to Keter class under review. Addendum, December 16th, 2000. Supercooling of SCP-009 for the purposes of experimentation is disallowed until further notice. Personnel are advised that liquid nitrogen is only to be used on the subject in controlled amounts and only until temperatures have reached acceptable levels. Related note: possible application of SCP-009 in cold fusion research pending evaluation. Memo from 05 Command, January 9th, 2000. We've decided to keep this thing Euclid for now. We understand the concerns raised, but as long as you keep the power on and nobody goes near its containment area, there shouldn't be a problem. That's why we're keeping it in sight, after all. As for the cold fusion research, we're putting a pin in that for now. Frankly, we don't have it in the budget for another SNAFU-like site. The salvage team still hasn't found Dr. redacted cross-testing report 9507F23. The following experiment record was recovered via a chance occurrence of SCP-507, shifting into a universe in which the described test was carried out using SCP-107. The applicability of the reported findings to our own universe is pending review. Input: 10 milliliters of SCP-009. Result: red snow fell in test area for 27 minutes with moderate intensity. Grass growing in test area began runaway reaction, which ended with entire area being frozen within minutes. Notably, anti-enthopathic reaction of SCP-009 did not extend past the effective radius of SCP-107 for reasons still under investigation. Non-grass plants in area turned bright red in color, greatly expanded, and mutated to display cyan-colored tentacles, similar to those of species Drosera capensis. Mucilage produced by these tentacles later found to be tiny beads of SCP-009. How the plant is able to survive with SCP-009 integrated into its cell structure is currently under investigation, with preliminary hypothesis being the plant is a reflection of flora from the substance's native universe. Exploration Log A-009-1. Exploration Log. November 5th, 19. Situational Report. Mobile Task Force Beta-7, the Maz Hatters, was deployed to recovery site to catalog and safely retrieve samples of SCP-009 for transport to site. Agent Bryce, MTF B7, made a visual inspection of the area and noted 3 bodies, all male, between the ages of and 40 years. Dr. also on site, surmised from the relative position of subjects that Mr. age 32, hereafter referred to as Subject 0, was the origin point of redacted. Subsequent subjects are presumed to have been exposed to SCP-009 while attempting to help Subject 0 back to the wreckage of the boat. During standard perimeter sweep, Agent Hughes located what appeared to be humanoid tracks leading northeast. After brief deliberation, a 3-man team consisting of Agents Hughes, Whitmore, and Cassidy was dispatched to investigate potential security breach. Begin log 6 hours 42 minutes and 43 seconds EST.
We found something, Control. It's a cave. The tracks lead inside.
Copy, Hughes. What do you see?
Looks like a crack in the ice. It's maybe a meter tall. The opening's not very wide.
Captain, we got a body. Unidentified shuffling noises are heard.
We didn't copy, Hughes. Repeat.
There's a subject here, Control, frozen in the skip. Male, about 15. Looks like he was trying to crawl away from something. There's a spear gun here, also frozen. It's been fired.
Any signs of trauma?
There is a pause.
Without touching him, I can't be sure. But it looks like he was stabbed by something. See how he's gripping his chest here? Right where this spike is growing out. He might have been attacked.
Did you hear her, Control?
Affirmative. Tag the coordinates for recovery and proceed into the cave.
We using live fire, Captain?
There might be hostiles, so yes. But keep them in single-shot mode. Don't want the guns getting too hot.
Good call. Don't want to end up like this guy.
That's for sure.
Agents ready their weapons and proceed. Approximately 2 minutes pass. Unintelligible.
Please repeat, Hughes. We didn't copy and
There's a chamber in here. Control, I'd say 5 or 6 meters in diameter. It's filled with red ice. In the middle, there's a pool. Looks about 3 meters wide. Depth unknown.
The fuck hap?
Screams are heard. Gunfire.
Hughes, come in. Are there hostiles?
There is a brief pause.
Fucking hell. Negative. Control just... Jesus, a fucking polar bear. It's dead. There's dozens of bodies here. Not human. I see a few seals, a snow fox, and a... what the hell?
The fuck is that?
No. Oh, God.
Hughes, do you copy?
Cassidy found a spider. A giant spider.
There is a pause during which shuffling and hard breathing are heard.
Is it alive? What do you mean by giant?
I mean fucking huge. Control. At least a meter leg span. It's frozen. Wait, no. Shit. I don't see anything inside. It almost looks like it's made of this stuff.
Not possible. We're nowhere close to Germany.
What? What about Germany?
Captain, I'm pretty sure that's 3023.
Repeat, Captain.
Cassidy said the spider is SCP-3023. Control.
There is a pause.
That's not possible, Hughes. Why would she think that?
I'm sure, Control. I've worked with 3023. It's an instance made of Skip 9.
Wait, what's 30? 23?
That is classified. Agent Cassidy, you are to speak no more of this. If the specimen is destroyed, there is no reason to worry about it. Please continue your search.
But how the fuck did it get here?
We copy. Control. Cassidy, sweep the perimeter. See if there's any side tunnels.
But
That's an order.
Unintelligible.
Check these corpses. See if there are any humans.
On it.
Agent Hughes, how deep is the pool you mentioned?
Can't see the bottom. God. I'm having SCP-354 flashbacks. This is not cool.
Focus, Captain. Is there anything nearby you can use to measure the depth?
Well, the spider has a spear sticking out of it.
Can you safely retrieve it?
The suit should protect me, right?
All the same, try not to touch the affected material.
All right. I've got it. Should work. Looks to be about 1.5 meters long.
Copy that, Hughes. Proceed with caution.
There is a pause.
Well, it's definitely more than a meter deep. I could go further, but I'd have to get my hand closer to that stuff. Suit or no suit, I'd prefer not to do that.
Affirmative, Captain. We'll dispatch some D-Class with gear to test that out. Continue your search.
Copy that. Well, I guess I'm...
Captain,
Stand by. Control. What is it, Cassidy?
I think you're going to want to see this, sir. I think I know where the spider came from.
Control, I'm going deeper in the cave.
Affirmative. Proceed.
Approximately 1 minute of boots crunching on ice and packed snow.
Oh, that's not good.
What do you see, Captain?
An aperture. About a meter in diameter. It's covered in the stuff. Cassidy.
10 seconds of silence.
Port.
Do you have a visual of Agent Cassidy?
No. Shit, she must have gone inside.
Please remain calm. Describe this aperture.
It just looks like a tunnel, but there's no ice past the mouth. Red or otherwise. I can make out a dim light coming from somewhere inside. Might be Cassidy's torch.
Is there anything else unusual?
Cassidy.
Captain Hughes, please respond. Is there anything else unusual about the tunnel?
Yeah, it's wet. The walls are... and the floor. There's a puddle about a meter down. Shit, the puddle is red.
A few minutes of breathing and shuffling noises.
Control, did you get that?
Affirmative. Stand by.
30 seconds of breathing, followed by approaching footsteps.
Yo, what's up? Where's Cassidy?
She went in there.
Yo, Cassidy, holla back, girl.
30 seconds of silence.
Control, I'm going in there.
Negative, Hughes. We're rerouting a team of D-Class for recovery. Your orders are to withdraw the rest of your team and await further orders.
Data redacted.
Whoa, hold up, take it easy.
You have your orders, Hughes. I don't think I need to remind you.
Data expunged. 45 seconds of silence.
Copy. Control, let's go.
End log. Item number SCP-010. Object class safe. Special containment procedures. The objects comprising SCP-010 are to be kept in numbered locked boxes at Site-19. They are not to be worn except by test subjects. SCP-010 are only to be removed from storage for testing. Description: SCP-010 consists of a series of 6 apparently identical cast iron collars with numbered metal tags and 1 remote control. The control is SCP-010-1. The collars are SCP-010-2 through 010-7. The collars contain intricate electronic components and are powered by small, 5mm diameter, 2mm thick, 100-volt batteries. These batteries are rechargeable. The remote is a heavy black box resembling an old-style handheld radio transmitter receiver with a primitive blue-white cathode ray screen and a series of more than 100 unlabeled buttons, as well as a frequency tuner. Through trial and error, the frequencies of all 6 currently found collars have been discovered. A label in Russian is stamped into the metal, along with a logo consisting of workers building a pyramid. No official Russian corporation or government agency uses this logo or matches the words stamped into the metal. Placing the collar around the neck of a person and securing it allows one to control their every movement with the remote. It is also capable of producing an adrenal response and activating or deactivating the sympathetic nervous system. The most abnormal feature of the collars is the effect they have on the body morphology. They allow the user of the remote to reconfigure the shape of the victim to an extent that is apparently only limited by the knowledge of the programming language of the remote. Addendum 010-1 History. SCP-010 was discovered in the basement of a lone man in the Midwestern United States after a local disappearance was connected to him. When the police raided the man's house, they found SCP-010, as well as several dead bodies. One of the bodies was identified to be the man. The others were several other missing persons. Cause of death seemed to be mass suicide. However, there were signs of significant struggle first. Addendum 010-2 Disassemble Experiment Test 1 SCP-010-2 taken apart piecewise, the parts labeled and several photographs taken, then reassembled. Result: after reassembly, SCP-010-2 continues to function. Test 2 SCP-010-8 constructed identically to SCP-010-2, but with the closest approximations available to the unreplicable components. Result: SCP-010-8 fails to function. Test 3 Unreplicable components from SCP-010-2 placed into proper locations on SCP-010-8. Result: SCP-010-2 ceases functioning with removal of components. SCP-010-8 begins functioning. Test 4 Components returned to SCP-010-2. Replicable components in SCP-010-2 replaced randomly with replicas. Result: SCP-010-2 begins functioning with return of components. Changing replicable components for replicas does not significantly reduce functionality. Replacement of a damaged transistor decreased time from transmission to effect of SCP-010-2 response to commands entered in the remote by 12%. Addendum 010-3 SCP-010 has been demonstrated to work more effectively in creating unskilled labor than for any other task. The logo is apt. Dr. Item Number SCP-011 Object Class Safe. Special Containment Procedures Item SCP-011 and the area surrounding it are to be cleaned once every day. For safety purposes, cleaning should start at least 30 minutes after sundown. Cleaning should always be performed by at least 2 personnel, who are also advised to note anything unusual about the item or the debris cleaned up. In a situation where the item cannot be cleaned for more than 2 days, local residents must be contacted and instructed not to approach the item. Containment Procedures Nullified 2004. Description: SCP-011 is a Civil War memorial statue located in Woodstock, Vermont. The statue is the image of a young male soldier holding a musket at his side and is carved out of granite quarried within the area. Occasionally, SCP-011 has been observed lifting its musket to the sky to fire at birds which attempt to land or defecate on it. Reports detail that its movements produce soft grinding sounds, but do not cause it any structural failure. Oddly, the gunfire is very similar to that of a standard firearm, despite observations that the item only loads granite bullets and granite powder into the musket, which is also unharmed by the firing. In spite of its efforts, some fecal matter does manage to strike SCP-011, and it has reportedly become distressed when it has had a large amount of feces on it, on some rare occasions even firing at humans. Addendum: those assigned to maintain SCP-011 are to see Document Number 011-1 for instructions. Document Number 011-1, Maintenance Brief. Document archived 2004, accessible to personnel with security clearance 2011 or higher. Additional information: SCP-011's seeming sentience has increased since the first report of activity in 1995. As of 2004, The item's containment procedures have been dropped, but it remains under constant observation. Recorded below are landmark events in its activity. Timeline: March 12, 1995. Woodstock resident reports the statue's eyes moving, first sign of activity. September 30th, 1995. Statue shoots musket for the first time. October 9th, 1995. Statue begins shooting birds from the sky. January 25th, 1996. Registration as SCP-011. Containment procedures begin. April 14th, 1997. SCP-011. Observed moving casually and looking around. May 3rd, 2000. After caretaker jokingly shouts, "Good shot!" to SCP-011, the item replies, "Thank you," in a reportedly very human voice. First speech from statue. October 22nd, 2001. SCP-011 has conversation with caretaker. 2001, shooting of birds stops. February 6th, 2002. At the imploring of, SCP-011 steps down from its pedestal. 2003 to 2004. SCP-011 reaches a human level of self-awareness. November 10th, 2004. Containment procedures dropped. Custody of SCP-011 transferred to May 17th, 2005. Reports that SCP-011 is romantically attracted to her. August 29th, 2006. Most recent psych test reports an IQ of 133. Item number: SCP-012. Object class: Euclid. Special containment procedures. SCP-012 is to be kept in a darkened room at all times. If the object is exposed to light or seen by personnel using a light frequency other than infrared, remove personnel for mental health screening and immediate physical. Object is to be encased in an iron-shielded box, suspended from the ceiling with a minimum clearance of 2.5 meters from the floor, walls, and any openings. Description: SCP-012 was retrieved by archaeologist K.M. Sandoval during the excavation of a northern Italian tomb destroyed in a recent storm. The object, a piece of handwritten musical score entitled On Mount Golgotha, part of a larger set of sheet music, appears to be incomplete. The red-black ink, first thought to be some form of berry or natural dye ink, was later found to be human blood from multiple subjects. The first personnel to locate the sheet, Site 19 Special Salvage, had 2 members descend into insanity, attempting to use their own blood to finish the composition, ultimately resulting in massive blood loss and internal trauma. Following initial investigations, multiple test subjects were allowed access to the score. In every case, the subjects mutilated themselves in order to use their own blood to finish the piece, resulting in subsequent symptoms of psychosis and massive trauma. Those subjects who managed to finish a section of the piece immediately committed suicide, declaring the piece to be impossible to complete. Attempts to perform the music have resulted in a disagreeable cacophony, with each instrumental part having no correlation or harmony with the other instruments. Item number: SCP-013. Object class: Safe. Special containment procedures. SCP-013 are to be kept in a secure storage vault at Site 66. Exposed subjects are to be monitored for differences between their symptoms. Exposed subjects are to be interviewed daily, and any changes in perception are to be logged. Description: SCP-013 is the collective designation of 242 cigarettes, which display similar anomalies. The most common external detail between instances is the presence of the words "Blue Lady," handwritten on each cigarette in blue ink. Subjects who consume the contents of SCP-013 through inhalation will begin to perceive themselves as a specific unidentified woman. Subjects have described the woman to be aged between 25 and 35 years old, standing approximately 1.6 meters tall, with an estimated weight of between 50 and 55 kilograms. Additional recurring details include cropped dark hair, blue eyes, and bright blue lipstick. Immediately after consuming an instance of SCP-013, subjects will gradually begin to perceive reflections of themselves as having the features of the woman, and will gradually perceive their bodies changing to reflect her appearance over the course of the following weeks. All changes are entirely mental. The subject's body does not change outwardly, only their perception of themselves. These alterations are permanent and cannot be reversed. SCP-013 was discovered after the suicide of an Irvine Rivers, packed in a large cardboard crate in his apartment. A cursory search of the apartment uncovered several hundred sketches of a figure strongly resembling the one perceived while under 013's effect. Miles's body had been found sitting at a desk, dead of a massive overdose and draped over a handwritten note, transcribed below. During the investigation of Miles' apartment, one civilian investigator became affected by 013's effect. An embedded agent soon contacted the nearest site. The subject, the artifact, and related evidence were extracted and contained. Currently, 217 instances of SCP-013 cigarettes are contained at Biosite 66. 25 SCP-013 cigarettes are contained at Research Sector 09, pending future research into similar anomalous effects. Addendum: below is the note which was acquired along with SCP-013. I see her everywhere. That sad blue lady? I feel like I know her, but I can't remember. I love her, but I don't know why. She's so beautiful and sweet and clear, but I don't know anymore. Her favorite flavor. Where did you go? I miss you. Item number: SCP-014. Object Class: Safe. Special Containment Procedures. SCP-014 is to be kept in sight in a chair with arms, preferably facing a window. Music should be supplied on a regular basis, preferably constantly. This music should not include pieces originating after 1937. A security camera should be present in SCP-014's room. Description: SCP-014 is a Caucasian male, appearing to be approximately 30 years of age, with black hair, brown eyes, and a somewhat round face. Records indicate his name to be Robert Chetford, confined in 1915 to the Norwich Asylum in Connecticut for delusional insanity, claiming that he had been cursed to live forever and was slowly turning into concrete in consequence. The asylum closed in 1937, and the patients were transferred to various other facilities. SCP-014 came to Foundation attention in from rumors of a patient who seemed to be entirely immobile and showed no signs of aging. Further investigation determined that acquisition was warranted. SCP-014 is to all outward appearances a normal man, but he does not appear to age and shows no signs of possessing a metabolism. He does not eat, drink, perspire, or in any other way demonstrate life functions. He breathes only to speak, and apart from his eyes and vocal apparatus, is to all appearances utterly immobile. He has never shown any evidence of pressure ulcers, despite his position not having varied for several decades. Neither do his muscles appear atrophied. He can converse normally, but shows little knowledge of or interest in events since his confinement. Addendum: note, frankly, were I to interview this man without knowing his history, I'd think he was a perfectly sane and well-adjusted individual who happens to be quadriplegic. As it is, I have to conclude that he's the ultimate proof of the idea that the mind rules the body. He thinks he's concrete and will live forever, and so he's as close to both as he can be. Somehow. Dr. Item number: SCP-015. Object Class: Euclid. Special Containment Procedures. SCP-015 is impossible to move, and is contained on site. A gap of at least 2 meters needs to be maintained around the entire structure containing SCP-015 at all times, and no structures of any kind are to make contact with SCP-015's current containment structure. Exploration is permissible, but only in teams of 3 with full safety lines and GPS tracking. Any protrusions from SCP-015 must be capped and sealed immediately, with the new site recorded and logged. No aggressive action is to be made within SCP-015. No hand or power tools are allowed anywhere inside SCP-015. No repairs or maintenance are to be made anywhere on SCP-015. Description: SCP-015 is a mass of pipes, vents, boilers, and other various plumbing apparatus completely filling a warehouse in. The pipes appear to grow when not under observation, attempting to connect to nearby structures via sewer systems and underground plumbing. SCP-015 contains, at current estimate, over 190 kilometers of pipes, ranging in diameter from 2.5 centimeter to over 1 meter. Some pipes appear new, while others are rusted and leaking. Pipes have been reported as being made of bone, wood, steel, compressed ash, human flesh, glass, and granite. No pipes composed of lead, PVC plastic, copper, or any other traditional material for the production of pipes have been found. SCP-015 reacts to tools and aggression. Any personnel acting violently, carrying tools, or attempting to damage or repair SCP-015 in any way will trigger a reaction. Any pipes near the subject will burst, spraying on the subject for several seconds before the flow suddenly stops. Pipes have been reported containing oil, mercury, rats, a species of insect not yet identified, ground glass, seawater, entrails, and molten iron. Pipes will continue to burst around the subject until death or retreat. SCP-015 was cut back to its current structure after attaching to 11 other structures in the area. Currently, 11 personnel have been killed, and 20 more are still missing. Reports have been made of banging and screaming coming from within SCP-015. Item number, SCP-016. Object Class, Cater. Special Containment Procedures. SCP-016 is to remain within the confines of a 5 by 5 by 5 meter room at all times, maintained at a temperature not to exceed 0 degrees Celsius. SCP-016 itself is to remain in the Petri dish in the containment cube at all times. Unless directed otherwise by Level 4 or 05 personnel, full documentation of experimentation with SCP-016 must be submitted before and after samples and duplicates of SCP-016 may be taken. Failure to follow these procedures will result in termination or reassignment as Class D personnel. Only authorized personnel may be permitted to obtain samples of and experiment with SCP-016 under BCL-5 containment conditions. If an outbreak does occur despite following the aforementioned procedures, Directive-based personnel are to implement a Code Sigma lockdown and containment plan. Infected personnel are to be terminated on site by security forces wearing Standard Mission-Oriented Protective Posture, MOPP, anti-biological and anti-chemical equipment. Should the infection not be contained after 48 hours, the on-site nuclear device is to be detonated. Remaining personnel are not to be evacuated under any circumstances. SCP-016 has been shown to survive for up to 6 hours on hard surfaces, and up to several minutes in air. High-intensity ultraviolet light and high concentrations of orthophthalaldehyde solution have been demonstrated to be effective in disinfecting non-organic surfaces. Description: SCP-016 is a blood-borne pathogen recovered from a mine worker who injured himself while working in a deep coal seam. Said wound became contaminated with coal dust from the mine, possibly infecting the worker with dormant spores. Over the next several days, SCP-016 proceeded to infect the remaining employees at the mining camp, as well as the CDC crisis team dispatched to deal with the epidemic. Foundation personnel then took over the investigation and terminated all affected personnel. Patient Zero was brought into captivity and the mine shaft was collapsed by an explosive device. SCP-016 has an incubation period ranging from 24 hours to 2 years, depending on the presence and number of other human hosts in the area. First symptoms resemble the common cold and include itchy eyes, runny nose, coughing, and bodily aches. Phase 2 begins in 48 hours and consists of a controlled form of hemorrhagic fever, as the organism causes a small amount of blood to become aspirated in the lungs, creating an aerosol effect. During Phase 3, the host crashes and bleeds out, bleeding profusely from every bodily orifice, including the nose, tear ducts, anus, skin pores, mouth, urethra, and, in case of females, vagina. Blood pressure skyrockets during the final stage. Hosts have been observed projectile vomiting blood to distances of over 5 meters. Should the host survive this near-total exsanguination, the pathogen will become dormant once more, returning to incubation phase. What distinguishes SCP-016 from other strains of hemorrhagic fever, such as Ebola and Marburg, is its unusual response to high stress. Should the subject undergo a high-stress situation, such as a life-threatening crisis, the organism will change its survival tactic from rapid reproduction to the rewriting of the host's DNA and stimulation of rapid cell division. Major physiological changes occur within the first 24 hours, with complete bodily reconstruction occurring within 2 weeks' time. Most hosts do not survive the process due to the heavy demands made on the body. Footnote 1. Due to their similarities as fatal contagions that stimulate the production of excess organs, a possible link to SCP-1801 is under investigation. An interesting side effect of the transformation is an increased aggressive urge. It is believed that this may be an attempt to maximize the spread of the virus in a manner similar to rabies. On another note, subjects who undergo bodily transformation no longer appear to exhibit SCP-016's hemorrhagic properties. However, subjects infected by transformed hosts will still undergo the normal SCP-016 infection process. Addendum: Experiment Log of SCP-016's transformative properties. Subject D-016-1. D-Class personnel infected by SCP-016. Upon first showing symptoms, subjects' quarters were slowly flooded with water over a 24-hour period. SCP-016 mutated into teratomorphic state, transforming subjects' lungs into gills. Subject survived for 2 more weeks, as SCP-016 transformed its limbs into fins, caused its eyes to atrophy, and enhanced its sense of hearing into a cetacean-type echolocation ability. Subject was terminated by draining all water from its quarters, causing it to asphyxiate. Body was subsequently cremated without autopsy. Subject D-016-2. D-Class personnel infected by SCP-016. Upon first showing symptoms, subjects' quarters were slowly flooded with water over a 24-hour period. SCP-016 mutated into teratomorphic state, causing subject to undergo rapid muscular growth and increased bone growth on knuckles. Subject then attempted to escape from confinement by punching through the reinforced steel door. Subject was not successful and died by drowning. Note: same situation, 2 different responses. Interesting. Dr. Subject D-016-3. D-Class personnel infected by SCP-016. Subject was previously a chemical engineer who poisoned his wife upon discovering her adultery. Upon first showing symptoms, subject's quarters were slowly flooded with water over a 24-hour period. SCP-016 mutated into teratomorphic state, causing subject to grow an unusual organ on his chest, consisting of a chamber and 2 separate tubes. Organ continued to take in water and swell in size, until Foundation personnel, realizing what SCP-016 may be attempting, terminated the subject by gunshot. Organ was found to contain several gas sacs filled with acetylene gas and oxygen. Subject D-016-4. D-Class personnel infected by SCP-016. Subject was told to concentrate on forming wings. No stress was applied. SCP-016 did not mutate into teratomorphic state. Subject died of exsanguination during Phase 3. Subject D-016-5. D-Class personnel infected by SCP-016. Subject was told to concentrate on forming wings and placed in an acrylic box suspended 305 meters above a mine shaft. A timer was placed outside the box, which subject was told indicated the time to release. SCP-016 mutated into teratomorphic state, causing subject to grow a tentacle-like organ on his left wrist, similar to a spider's spinnerets. Subject extended said organ through one of the box's air holes, and extruded a strong, silk-like substance, which it then used to secure the box to the cable. Subject was terminated when the countdown reached 0, and the bomb detonated. Item Number: SCP-017. Object Class: Cater. Special Containment Procedures. SCP-017 is contained in an acrylic glass cage, 100 centimeters by 50 centimeters by 50 centimeters, centrally suspended in a concrete room measuring 6 meters by 6 meters by 4 meters. Attached to the walls, ceiling, and floor of the room are high-intensity arc lamp spotlights pointed directly at the acrylic cage to ensure that SCP-017 is constantly exposed to light from every angle. Personnel assigned to the SCP-017 control room are to monitor the functionality of the spotlights and the emergency generator system and call for maintenance immediately upon knowledge of a burnt-out lamp or an issue with the generator. The only circumstance under which personnel are allowed entrance is to replace lamps. Personnel entering the room are required to wear the designated full-body reflective suits and must be cautioned not to step in front of functional spotlights. Description: SCP-017 is a humanoid figure approximately 80 centimeters in height, anatomically similar to a small child, but with no discernible identifying features. SCP-017 seems to be composed of a shadowy, smoke-like shroud. No attempt to find any object beneath the shroud has been successful, but the possibility has not been ruled out. SCP-017's reaction to shadows cast upon it is immediate and swift. SCP-017 leaps at the object casting the shadow and completely encloses it in its shroud, whereupon it returns to its normal size, leaving no trace of the object behind. Additional notes: personnel with beta clearance or higher should see also document number 017-1. Item number: SCP-018. Object class: Euclid. Special containment procedures: SCP-018 is to be contained in its specialty metal restraint inside of a 1 meter by 1 meter by 1 meter sealed box lined with heavy synthetic padding. The sealed box is then submerged in the center of the 10 meter by 10 meter by 10 meter polyethylene holding tank. If SCP-018 is to break free from the holding box, the polyethylene-based goo will slow down kinetic activity enough for proper retrieval by containment personnel. Personnel entering SCP-018's holding chamber are to wear specialized plating found inside of SCP-018 observation and a breathing apparatus before being lowered into the polyethylene tank. If SCP-018 is loose outside of the polyethylene tank, personnel are advised to secure themselves in a separate room and close doorways or hatches to isolate SCP-018 until containment teams arrive. Description: SCP-018 has the appearance of a super ball made by the Whammo Company in 1969. It is 6 centimeters in diameter and colored red. Found when the company was hired to clean out a warehouse that had Whammo merchandise in it, SCP-018 was noted to be able to bounce with extreme height. At first thought to be a pleasant child's toy, SCP-018 was able to bounce with over 200% efficiency. That is, if dropped 1 meter, it would bounce 2, then 4, then 8, then 16. The ball soon became a dangerous projectile, reaching speeds estimated at over 100 kilometers per hour and damaging property and injuring 5 in the city of. It came to a rest after several days in the nearby lake of and was retrieved by SCP personnel. Due to the speed of the object and the total surprise by its victims, no cover-up story was required or initiated. Document number 01804. Message to 05. I hope everything is well. The reason I write to you is because I believe I have found a more effective method for retrieving new or escaped SCP objects. Yes, I realize we haven't had any progress in reverse engineering, whatever, allows this thing to defy the laws of thermodynamics. But we have come up with a very effective method for integrating one of those new SCP-005 armor suits with this. Just hear me out. We implant it into the bottom of a boot, rig up a little bit of a mechanical device, and ta-da! The suit is now capable of jumping well over a building. Also, if the wearer has their foot against something they want dead, well, let's just say it delivers a hell of a kick. All I need is permission to modify one of the pre-existing SCP-005 suits, and you'll be able to actually capture plus any other escaped SCP objects. Trust me, when have I let you down in the past? Dr. Document number 01806. Letter to Dr. Upon assignment, Agent was issued your modified SCP-005 armor in retrieving SCP, and the results are mixed. Agent was able to place the collar onto SCP, chase it through the Amazon, and restrain it by dismemberment. However, due to a malfunction of your little mechanical device, he was launched almost a mile into the air and suffered 2 broken legs, 7 broken ribs, a missing arm, and a skull fracture upon hitting the water of Lake on the way back down. You will fix that before I authorize your armor for common use. Document number 01811. Message to 05. Don't worry, it's fixed. But I have some more ideas. If I can be granted the use of some water from SCP-006, SCP, and possibly SCP, I can deliver you a set of SCP-A5 armor and an agent that can capture any, if not all, rogue or unattained SCPs. All I'm waiting on is your approval. Item number SCP-019. Object Class Keter. Special Containment Procedures. SCP-019 is to be kept on a wide grate in a 3 meter by 3 meter by 4 meter reinforced concrete room, installed with an incinerator. Room is to be kept at 0 degrees Celsius when incinerator is not activated. An observation chamber separated by a plate glass window is to be used for constant observation of SCP-019, and if when specimens of SCP-019-2 are observed, the incinerator is to be activated. In the event of an outbreak of SCP-019-2, ordinary firearms are successful in terminating individual specimens, although in the case of a swarm-level outbreak, flamethrowers may be more effective. SCP-019 should be kept in a vertical position at all times. Description: SCP-019 appears to be a very large ceramic vase, 1.8 meters in diameter at the mouth and 2.4 meters high. Style and decoration indicate it was created in classical Greece, although conclusive dating is impossible, as the surface is entirely unbreakable by any known means. If a successful method is discovered, SCP-019 is to be destroyed with prejudice. Periodically, entities emerge from SCP-019. Collectively, these are known as SCP-019-2. The entities vary in many aspects, but tend to be small, vaguely humanoid, though they may have animaloid features, and extremely hostile. They often choose to attack with teeth or claws. Although fairly delicate, also surprisingly flammable, they are reasonably strong and pose a considerable threat in large numbers. When kept at 0 degrees Celsius and totally at rest, entities will emerge from SCP-019 at a rate of approximately 1 entity per hour. The following traits are known to affect SCP-019-2's manifestation rate: movement of SCP-019, threat to SCP-019, extreme temperature highs and lows, sudden shift in surrounding environment, introduction of objects or organisms to the inside of SCP-019, known to cause a flood reaction. Traits that may or may not influence SCP-019-2's manifestation rate: presence of human life near SCP-019, current weather patterns, specific individuals near SCP-019. Some individuals seem to affect SCP-019-2's emergence rate more drastically than others. In addition, as tipping or tilting SCP-019 will create a reaction as though it was previously filled with SCP-019-2 specimens, although viewers looking into SCP-019 from above will merely observe a dark hole. Due to the production rates of SCP-019-2, when the object is disturbed, measurement of the internal cavity is difficult, but it is suspected to be inconsistent with outside measurements. Addendum Document SCP-019-2A. SCP-019-2 Notes, as maintained by Dr. Light and Dr. Vox. Date redacted. SCP-019-2 specimen was removed from containment chamber and kept in reinforced pen, provided with water and live chickens as food. Specimen made quiet, continuous, garbled vocalizations, determined to be phonetically similar to ancient Hellenic languages. Although the reason for this is unknown, specimens are still thought to be no more intelligent than animals. The specimen lived for less than 48 hours, and a dissection revealed anatomy consistent on a cellular level with normal biology, but with an extremely unstable musculoskeletal structure. Other notable anomalies included an unstable respiratory system, nearly non-existent digestive tract, and virtually no other internal organs. All other captured specimens have followed similar patterns of behavior and demise. Note: it appears that SCP-019-2 specimens were not intended to live for meaningful amounts of time outside of SCP-019. Dr. Vox. Date redacted. Containment unit was slightly damaged following prolonged exposure to SCP-019-2 specimen, missed by the monitoring team because of partial transparency. This has not been noted in SCP-019-2 before. Monitoring teams will continue to report further anomalies. Date redacted. Monitoring teams report some specimens of SCP-019-2 now appear to be significantly more resistant to incineration than others. It is hypothesized that this is a defense mechanism on the part of SCP-019. Date redacted. Most specimens of SCP-019-2 are now all but entirely resistant to the effects of the incinerator. Replacement of incinerator with an acid bath is being considered. Evolution of SCP-019-2 is being studied and may be evidence of sentience in SCP-019. Item number SCP-020, Object Class, Keter, Special Containment Procedures. Samples of SCP-020 are stored in a series of sealed cultivation chambers inside a sealed containment room at Biological Research Area 12, which is accessible only via airlock. Nutrients are administered via automated robotic systems, as the cultivation chamber must remain sealed at all times. Hermetically sealed video surveillance cameras are installed within the containment room and must be checked daily for integrity. Any personnel entering the containment room must wear Biosafety Level 5 equipment including rebreathers and undergo full antifungal disinfection upon exiting. Description: SCP-020 is a fast-spreading fungal organism that is capable of affecting the senses and behavior of living creatures, including humans. Samples of SCP-020 exhibit an unknown effect that renders them effectively invisible to direct observation, even when under a microscope. SCP-020 is only visible to humans when viewed through photographic or video surveillance. Once SCP-020 forms a colony, usually within a human residence, it will produce spores that affect the behavior of humans around it. Affected subjects will increase the heat and humidity within their homes to create an environment more suitable to the growth of SCP-020. Affected subjects also become more sociable in many cases, and often invite acquaintances to their homes to further spread the organism. As the spores and mold colonies are invisible to affected subjects, the mold may sometimes grow directly on living subjects. As the spores and colonies within a home approach critical concentration, the health of affected human subjects will rapidly deteriorate, resulting in death. Further spread of the mold may occur as the bodies of any deceased subjects are encountered by emergency responders and healthcare agents, as well as transportation of the bodies to local morgues. SCP-020 was first encountered in Redacted, where an undercover SCP agent noted dramatic personality changes in personnel working at the local hospital. Upon investigation by a containment team, it was discovered that almost civilians had been infected, as well as a majority of the town. The civilian population was terminated, and the town incinerated under cover of a local flash forest fire. To date, over 12 outbreaks of SCP-020 have been reported. Investigations are currently underway to determine the source of these outbreaks and possible preventative measures. Addendum 02001. Excerpts from the audio-video mission recorders of Mobile Task Force ETA-10, See No Evil, during the initial containment of SCP-020 on Redacted.
Team 2 moving to the Red House.
Copy. UAV-1 is picking up one heat signature.
Team 2 in place, ready to
Expletive.
Door opening.
At this point, a civilian woman appeared in the doorway, holding a kitchen knife. Video surveillance showed that nearly 2/3 of her face was covered by mold growths.
Well, hello there, gentlemen. Care to take a breather inside?
On the ground. Drop the weapon.
Don't be silly. Come on in and stay a while.
Stop where you are. Drop the weapon.
We just want to have some guests. Please, come in.
Drop the weapon.
It is assumed that at this point, the infected civilian noticed T-24 carrying a primed incendiary weapon and lunged forward at the team members with the knife. Data expunged.
Open fire. Open fire.
Gunfire, screaming. Item number SCP-021. Object Class Safe. Special Containment Procedures. SCP-021 is an obligate parasite of the human body. Containment, therefore, is no more difficult than containing an adult human. Most cells will suffice. Item is currently housed in Detention Cell 217A on Subject D-139. Only Class D personnel are eligible for hosting SCP-021. As long as a given subject survives as a host for SCP-021, he is exempt from normal monthly terminations of Class D personnel. Description: SCP-021 takes the form of a large and elaborate tattoo of a serpentine dragon in the Oriental style, covering approximately 0.8 square meters of skin. This tattoo is fully animate within the confines of its host's skin and behaves largely as a normal animal would, albeit in only 2 dimensions. The tattoo's movement causes constant pain to its host, comparable and similar in character to simultaneous tattooing and tattoo removal on a large scale. The organism tends to spend most of its time on and near the torso. SCP-021 displays no intelligence beyond a basic pattern of feeding and locomotion, although actually measuring the intelligence of a 2-dimensional life form has proven impossible thus far. SCP-021 appears to feed exclusively on pigments in the host's skin. This can include melanin, in which case the subject appears to be suffering from vitiligo. However, the organism shows a marked preference for other tattoos, and will seek out and devour these before resorting to natural pigments. It should be noted that the feeding process itself, beyond the sensation of movement, is painless. Normal tattoo ink simply vanishes as it is eaten. The organism maintains a constant size, and no excretions have been observed. The organism is capable of clearing over 0.6 square meters of skin per hour. One may feed SCP-021 by, quickly, tattooing fruits or small animals on the host. SCP-021 can be transferred between hosts by various forms of physical contact, with differing rates of success. In the case of successful transfer, the organism simply swims from one person to the other. Sexual intercourse appears to be the most reliable method of transfer, with a 93% rate of transmission. However, due to the severe pain involved, this is less than ideal. Contact between 2 open wounds is generally preferable. Transfer is more complicated in deceased subjects, though not unreasonably so. The organism suffers no ill effects from the death of its host, and continues to consume pigments. Transmission between species is unknown. Previous tests suggest it to be either impossible or exceedingly rare. SCP-021 does confer some benefits to its host. The tattoo has been proven to accelerate the release and reuptake of epinephrine and decrease lactic acid buildup, providing boosts of strength, confidence, and pain tolerance in stressful situations, and reducing the usual after effects of weakness and fatigue. In addition, the tattoo seems to have some beneficial effect on the host's immune system. Aggression profiles in hosts are generally higher than average, though whether this is a direct effect of the tattoo or simply a reaction to the constant pain remains to be seen. The symbiotic relationship is usually limited by how long the host can tolerate such pain in everyday life. This has culminated in suicide in a number of subjects. In rare cases, hosts have also fallen victim to fatal skin infections. Item number SCP-022. Object class Euclid. Special containment procedures. A vault door has been installed following Incident 0-22827 to seal SCP-022. It is to remain locked at all times, with the sole exception being the appearance of an instance of SCP-022-1. The original door to SCP-022 was destroyed during Incident 0-22827, with attempts at replacement being met with failure. Security cameras have been installed to monitor for instances of SCP-022-1. In the event that an instance of SCP-022-1 appears, automated systems should incinerate it the moment it leaves SCP-022. At this point, the vault door may be unlocked to admit cleanup crews. Should the automated systems fail to destroy the instance of SCP-022-1, response teams are cleared to enter and neutralize it. Under no circumstances may any living human enter SCP-022 except at the order of Class 4 personnel for testing purposes. Class 4 personnel may also order instances of SCP-022-1 to be captured and held. However, they may not be removed from SCP-022 containment facilities. Description: SCP-022 is a morgue in the basement of Redacted Hospital in Great Britain. Until 1980, there were no reported anomalous occurrences within the morgue. Reports of strange activity were first received in November of 1980. The area was soon quarantined by the Foundation, with an official story being released that the entire building had been condemned. The reason for the sudden manifestation of its strange properties remains under investigation. Periodically, a random drawer within the morgue will open to reveal a cadaver under a covered sheet. After approximately 6 minutes open, the cadaver will animate and attempt to leave the morgue. At this point, the cadaver is given the designation SCP-022-1. In some cases, the cadaver will be too damaged or decomposed to successfully exit SCP-022 or even rise from the table it lies on. In this case, SCP-022-1 will typically struggle and twitch on the table until expiration occurs. Should an instance of SCP-022-1 expire while remaining on the table slides back into the drawer, which then shuts. Reports indicate that the scent of burnt tissue is evident immediately following such an event. The energy source that sustains instances of SCP-022-1 is currently unknown. Instances do not breathe, eat, or sleep, and their bodies produce no heat. Analysis of SCP-022-1 following expiration has discovered no abnormal organs or chemicals present. They appear to be fully human cadavers. Instances also possess physical strength that exceeds that of normal humans. Though direct testing has proven problematic, researchers estimate the strength increase to be approximately 500 Newton of lifting force greater than what one would expect of a human body sharing a similar condition. Analysis is underway to determine if this effect is connected to the unknown power source, or if it is an entirely separate phenomenon. When body parts are severed from SCP-022-1, the portion with the greatest mass retains its effects. All other pieces become inert. Destruction of the head or brain does not neutralize SCP-022-1. Instead, the lower torso and limbs remain animate. Complete tissue destruction appears to be the only method of successfully terminating instances of SCP-022-1. Left alone, instances of SCP-022-1 will simply expire. All motion ceases, and they appear to become normal cadavers again. The amount of time this takes depends on how damaged the body is and the rate of decomposition, and can take anywhere between 2 days and 3 weeks. Investigation has revealed that the bodies acting as SCP-022-1 match the description of cadavers reported to have been stolen from morgues across the country. The mechanism for this transfer is currently being researched. Adding any new matter to SCP-022 has thus far proved impossible. Any object that enters SCP-022 disappears shortly after passing through the door, leaving no trace. This includes inanimate objects and biological specimens. See Addendum 022-001 and 022-002. So long as an instance of SCP-022-1 possesses a functioning mouth, tongue, and trachea, it is able to communicate fully with researchers. See Interview Log 022-751 for details. Addendum 022-001. A request has been submitted to create a new entrance to SCP-022 by removing a portion of the south wall. Request pending approval. Addendum 022-002. A pile of matter was discovered on the floor of the room directly above SCP-022. It appeared to contain all matter that had been sent into SCP-022, with the exception of humans. All materials appeared broken and worn down. Metallic components were covered in large amounts of rust, with all biological parts being in various stages of decomposition. Testing revealed that the time between inserting an object into SCP-022 and it reappearing above to be precisely 183 seconds. Humans who enter, however, do not appear in said pile. Instead, humans appear to become integrated into the morgue, and may later animate as instances of SCP-022-1. Each of the following interviews begin in much the same way. The instance of SCP-022-1 will typically be hysterical until Foundation personnel are able to calm, restrain them. These portions have been omitted. Date, March 1980. Interviewee, SCP-022-12. Interviewer, Dr. Notes. SCP-022-12 was the second instance of SCP-022-1 that the Foundation discovered, the first having been destroyed on site by Foundation agents. SCP-022-12 had the body of an Asian male, approximately 54 years old. Its chest had been stitched up, evidence of an autopsy. Begin log.
Please identify yourself.
My name is John. What the hell is going on?
That's what we're trying to figure out, John. How did you get to this state?
I don't know. I was driving my car, coming home from... Never mind. I was driving, and I crashed.
Then what happened?
Nothing. I woke up here, please. This has to be...
Unintelligible.
So you remember being in a car accident, then woke up here in the morgue? Do you have any idea how you got here?
I didn't get here. Don't you get it? This isn't me. I'm not me.
What do you mean, you aren't you?
At this point, SCP-02212 became severely agitated and had to be physically restrained. This required 6 agents, due to the strength increase associated with instances of SCP-0221. Eventually, SCP-02212 was calmed, and the interview proceeded.
Now, would you please explain what you meant?
This is not me. I saw my reflection in the steel. I'm not some old Asian fuck. This isn't me.
End log. Following the last statement, SCP-02212 began to smash its head against the wall. Once further restrained, it began to scream unintelligibly for several hours before falling silent. It continued to struggle, though apparently unable to speak, for an additional 6 days until it finally ceased motion. During this time, it continued decomposing at a natural rate. An examination of the body following this interview was unable to determine a cause of death, as many of the internal organs had been removed. The only injury that did not appear to be a result of a previous surgery or autopsy was a damaged trachea. Date: March 1980. Interviewee: SCP-02215. Interviewer: Dr. Notes: SCP-02215, animated shortly after D5619, was sent into SCP-022 and subsequently disappeared. SCP-02215 had the body of an approximately 12-year-old female, missing its right arm and a large portion of its torso. Following the incident with SCP-02213, all instances of SCP-0221 are physically restrained before being introduced to valuable personnel, with SCP-02215 being no exception. Begin log.
Please state your name.
What did you bastards do to me?
Please state your name.
What the fuck did you do to me?
We have done nothing to you. Now please state your name.
You know who I fucking am.
Refresh my memory then, please.
I'm the guinea pig you just fucked up. Don't tell me you forgot me, doctor asshole.
Are you D5619?
In the flesh. And for your information, jackass, my name is...
Redacted.
Now change me back, you son of a bitch. Change me fucking back.
End log. At this point, Dr. asked SCP-02215 several questions to verify its identity. Though its identity was confirmed to be that of D5619, no further useful information was gained from SCP-02215. It was kept in a holding cell until expiring 2 days later. After 3 weeks, the body of D5619 animated as SCP-02217. In a brief interview with SCP-02217, it claimed to be an 89-year-old female. Item number: SCP-023. Object class: Euclid. Special containment procedures: SCP-023 is to be contained in a walled-off intersection of 2 corridors at site, with at least 3 meters of space in each direction, and false doors at 3 of the 4 ends. In addition to the real door, security cameras will be placed and maintained above all 4 doors. At all times, SCP-023's eye sockets are to be filled with spherical inserts made of hard rubber. Eye inserts must be replaced as they degrade. Degradation can be monitored by measuring the brightness of the burning effect, as observed by security footage. Brightness greater than 12 candela requires that the inserts be replaced within 12 hours. Eye inserts are only to be replaced individually, and only after the sun has completely set. Personnel are not to look directly into eye sockets of SCP-023 at any time. Following Incident 02327, all reflective surfaces, including displays, monitors, and eyewear of any sort, are not permitted within 30 meters of SCP-023's cell. This includes monitors linked to security cameras within its enclosure. Security personnel posted at checkpoints outside both corridors will enforce and adhere to this measure. Experimentation involving SCP-023 has been suspended indefinitely. Description: SCP-023 is a large, sexless, shaggy canine, 1.5 meters at the shoulder, with black fur. Anytime an individual makes eye contact with SCP-023, either that person or a member of their immediate family will die exactly 1 year after eye contact is broken. Research into the method of selection is incomplete due to a moratorium on experiments, but the available data suggests that having a larger immediate family lessens the chance of the individual making eye contact themselves dying, and neither a pattern nor a preference in victim types have been found. This may indicate that SCP-023's victim is designated entirely at random, but it is unknown whether this selection occurs at the beginning or at the end of the 1-year time period. Attempts to terminate an individual who has made eye contact with SCP-023 and their entire immediate family before the 1-year time period has ended. Data expunged. Autopsies of individuals killed by SCP-023's effect show that, while outwardly appearing unharmed, their remains have been filled in with highly compacted ash, including but not limited to all organ systems and the circulatory system. Muscle tissue, bones, and brain tissue universally show signs of exposure to temperatures above degrees Celsius. If not contained in a setting that at least superficially resembles a crossroads, SCP-023 will phase through walls to get to the nearest suitable location, incinerating all materials it passes through. SCP-023 was first brought to the Foundation's attention when it attacked a church while it was in session, killing civilians directly and redacted as a result of eye contact. Following retrieval of SCP-023, Class B amnestics were administered to all witnesses and surviving victims. The incident was covered up as a case of arson. Addendum 023-001, SCP-023 broke containment by passing through its cell wall. Incident 023-01. SCP-023 was later discovered at the intersection of 2 corridors elsewhere on site. Agent noted SCP-023's similarity to a redacted Special Containment Procedures for SCP-023 updated. Assistant Researcher issued a reprimand for negligence. Addendum 023-002. SCP-023 has been responsible for the deaths of personnel and civilians since it was first brought into containment on October 12, 94. Addendum 023-003. Request for reclassification to Kiter pending. Addendum 023-004. Due to both anomalies focusing on specific geographic spaces, their destructive capabilities, and canine appearance, it is possible that SCP-1111-1 may be a variant of the same phenomenon observed in SCP-023, or vice versa. Investigation into the origin of both anomalies is ongoing. Due to the inability to capture SCP-1111-1 for study, investigations are currently focused on SCP-023. Incident Report 023-026. SCP involved, SCP-023. Personnel involved, Dr. 5D class personnel, date, location, site, description. In an attempt to curtail the danger posed by SCP-023, Dr. has approved the removal of both 023's eyes and teeth. Immediately after both its eyes were removed, SCP-023 breached security by vanishing completely. SCP-023 was reobtained on a stretch of interstate at 4:37 p.m. and brought back into containment, where D-Class personnel finished pulling out its teeth. While the total number of civilians exposed to SCP-023 during this period is unknown, death record monitoring has tied 9 civilian deaths to this incident. Timestamps confirmed over the course of the next 48 hours that SCP-023 vanished, only while the sun was visible in the sky from outside sight. Addendum 023-026-1, as of Dr. has been suspended pending disciplinary review for contributing to, if not being directly responsible for, Incident 023-026. Dr. is now in charge of SCP-023. The increased difficulties in containment that have been incurred as a result of Dr. should serve to remind all personnel of the Foundation's purpose: secure, contain, and protect. Research, experimentation, convenience, and even the safety of Foundation personnel are secondary concerns. We are not working to protect ourselves. 05 Addendum 023-026-2. A total of bodies with a time of death exactly 1 year after incident 02326 have been identified as consistent with SCP-023 exposure. Incident 02327. SCP involved, SCP-023. Personnel involved, Dr. Data expunged, date, location, site. Description, timeline of events, 0 hours, 0 minutes, and 10 seconds. A pair of glass eyeballs are inserted into the eye sockets of SCP-023 by 2 D-Class personnel. 0 hours, 0 minutes, and 15 seconds. Glass eyes take on an orange-red glow, similar to what SCP-023's real eyes looked like before removal. 0 hours, 3 minutes, and 13 seconds. Molten glass begins to run out of SCP-023's eye sockets. 0 hours, 5 minutes, and 54 seconds. Data expunged, appear on all lenses, windows, mirrors, monitors, and glass surfaces at site. 0 hours, 6 minutes, and 12 seconds. Evacuation of site ordered. 6 hours, 54 minutes, and 7 seconds. Sun visible over horizon. D-Class personnel sent in to check area around SCP-023's enclosure. Data expunged. Gone. Only trace of SCP-023 is a burnt section of floor around a puddle of colored glass. Personal log of Dr. Date. It's my fault. I have doomed my research team and possibly the rest of the facility. All that's left is to keep trying. We must contain SCP-023. Note, on 1 year after Incident 02327, personnel were interred in an unmarked mass grave outside site. Item number, SCP-024. Object class, Euclid. Special containment procedures. Due to its nature, SCP-024 cannot be moved to a secure location, so security measures must be placed on site. To conceal its location, 5 identical-looking replicas have been erected around SCP-024. A tight security perimeter must be maintained around SCP-024's compound at all times, with separate security teams guarding SCP-024 and its replicas. None of the security teams, except for team leaders, will be informed of the location of SCP-024. SCP-024 must be secured with magnetically sealed blast doors and reinforced armored walls to prevent unauthorized entry. Under no circumstances can any security or research personnel enter SCP-024. Only D-Class personnel are allowed entry and strictly for research purposes only. All researchers are to observe and experiment with SCP-024 from the Remote Observation Lab. Any personnel attempting to leave the Remote Observation Lab or enter SCP-024 without prior approval from a Level 4 researcher must be immediately apprehended with termination authorized. Should containment be breached or SCP-024's true nature compromised, then the entire compound must be destroyed via specialized demolition charges planted throughout the compound. Description: SCP-024 is an abandoned soundstage that was once owned by. However, SCP-024 itself had been abandoned since 19, and it is unknown whether its special properties manifested before or after its abandonment. SCP-024 is located in the heart of and was initially discovered when a group of teenage youths broke into the abandoned compound. The testimony of the lone winner when she turned herself into the police was enough to have Foundation assets mobilized to contain SCP-024. Upon entering SCP-024, visitors are immediately greeted by an anonymous announcer who communicates via intercom and is able to hear and comprehend the voices of people within SCP-024. The announcer will inform the contestants that they are about to take part in a game show in which the winners will win fabulous prizes, but will also warn that the game will be extremely hazardous and that the losers will never leave SCP-024. It is at this point the announcer presents the choice of whether to stay or leave SCP-024. Contestants who accept will continue to participate in the game, while those who decline are immediately expelled from SCP-024. Contestants that win the game or decline to participate may never enter SCP-024 again, as entry is denied by an impenetrable, invisible barrier. It is then that the contestants are led to the actual game. The style, composition, and appearance of the game always changes in every individual playthrough, but the game is always centered around a long, elaborate obstacle course that the contestants must navigate through. The rules also vary. Some playthroughs may only allow a single winner, while others encourage the creation of teams to win the game. More often than not, the obstacles seen in these games range from incredibly benign to extremely hazardous and life-threatening. As the contestants attempt to negotiate the course, the announcer will continuously update their status and actively participate in the game, often giving advice, conversing with contestants, and adding new rules. As the game progresses, the obstacles become significantly more dangerous and difficult to overcome, and it is not surprising to have the entire pool of contestants succumb to the rigors of the obstacle course. If such an event happens, the announcer will express sadness at the lack of a winner, and SCP-024 will shut down, resetting only when a new batch of contestants enter. Any attempts to break the rules, such as assaulting other contestants and deliberately bypassing obstacles, are met by extreme violence. The announcer will call out the offending contestant, who will be quickly and forcefully ejected from the course by Studio Guardians. These Studio Guardians will immediately materialize within SCP-024 when called upon by the announcer and disappear when not needed. The contestant will never be seen again. When a winner is declared, he/she will receive a random grand prize. Any contestants that have survived the course but failed to win are immediately declared losers by the announcer. The lights will switch off, and the winner will immediately appear outside of SCP-024 with his/her prize, while the losers completely disappear. However, the most mysterious aspect of SCP-024 is that after every game, a VHS tape or DVD will appear in the mailbox outside of SCP-024's main entrance. This recording is a complete record of the entire game that was previously played, even though winners have claimed that they had never seen any cameras or recording devices inside SCP-024. Also, more strangely, a live studio audience can be seen in the background cheering on the contestants. Again, winners have claimed not to have seen a live studio audience while inside SCP-024. Addendum 1, so far, the list of prizes awarded to winners has included, but is not limited to, cash prizes, electronics, various consumer goods, cars, collectibles, full paid vacations to various countries, data expunged. Close examination of these prizes have confirmed that they are completely genuine and possess no unusual abilities or characteristics whatsoever. There appears to be no consistent pattern for what the prizes will be. Addendum 2. In an attempt to track where the losers are taken, GPS locator beacons were planted on subjects D-124 through D-135 when Group D-245 was sent into SCP-024. When the losers were taken away, all signals from the beacons were lost. Whether this is because the beacons were destroyed or because the losers were taken to an area that cannot be located via GPS is currently unknown. Addendum 3. The announcer living within SCP-024 appears to be sentient and aware of events that take place outside of the compound. During the test of Group D-523, which consisted only of Dr. the announcer instead engaged in a conversation with Dr. Analysis of the conversations have shown that the majority of the subjects are centered around pop culture and information distributed through television, implying that SCP-024 somehow is able to access and interpret television signals. Cutting all power and signal lines, as well as removing any potential wireless receiving equipment on SCP-024, does not affect SCP-024 in any way. When it became clear that no other contestants would participate, the announcer kindly asked Dr. to leave SCP-024 and suggested he return with more contestants. Addendum 4. The studio guardians that the announcer uses to enforce the rules vary in appearance every game, just like the course. If they appear, the guardians will always be dressed in a manner that matches with the theme of the obstacle course. The only common attributes all guardians share are the possession of humanoid appearance, ability to suddenly appear and disappear, superhuman strength, and face-concealing masks or headgear. However, winners have claimed that the Guardians have no apparent shape or form inside SCP-024, instead appearing as huge shadowy figures that engulf the offender. Item Number SCP-025. Object Class Safe. Special Containment Procedures SCP-025 is only to be opened during testing, as is the room in which SCP-025 is stored. Entry codes are to be given only to authorized research and security personnel. No other containment protocols required. Description: SCP-025 is a wooden wardrobe measuring 0.97 meters by 0.62 meters by 1.95 meters, full of clothing dating from a number of time periods. Articles contained within the chest, collectively named SCP-025-1, match with styles of decades from the 1920s to the present. The apparel from each time frame varies with regard to style. For example, a polyester striped shirt and pair of charcoal suit pants both correspond with general styles of the 1970s. The only unifying aspect of every article contained in SCP-025 is that each one is in poor condition. Moths have eaten at much of the collection, and tears and runs are not uncommon. When any item from SCP-025 is put on, the wearer is observed either to die or suffer an injury within 24 hours. The cause of death or injury in these instances is invariably linked to the aforementioned flaws in the clothing, but only ever appears to be an unrelated incident. Wearing a glove with a fingertip cut off may result in the loss of the fingertip through a simple kitchen accident like chopping onions. Similarly, a subject wearing a poncho with a sleeve missing will somehow cause the loss of the uncovered arm, be it an attack by a wild animal or a vehicular accident that necessitates the amputation of the limb. If placed in a sealed, unfurnished enclosure while wearing an item from the chest, the wearer will either seemingly spontaneously contract a flesh-eating disease that begins in the areas not covered by the clothing, or suffer the failure of an organ located beneath an imperfection in the article. Diseases arising from such incidents may or may not be contagious. No study has been successfully undertaken due to the speed at which the strains observed run their course. Recommended that, if possible, samples of the disease be taken to lab for possible weaponization. Following is an abridged testing log of SCP-025. More thorough testing will accompany the declassification of the document in its entirety. Test log SCP-025, Section 1. Subject: D778, a 42-year-old white male. Article: 1940s-era white tuxedo. Imperfections: torn seam in left shoulder. Test results: subject was allowed free roam of the halls under Agent supervision. For approximately 45 minutes, nothing eventful occurred. However, security tapes and eyewitnesses indicate that D778 appeared to make an attempt at attacking Agent. He in turn overcame the subject with a knife, causing an inch-deep gash in D778's left shoulder, precisely at the point where the tuxedo's seam was ripped. Test halted. Subject later terminated. Subject: D690, a 26-year-old white male. Article: 2004, Boston Red Sox baseball cap. Imperfections: missing size adjuster in back of cap, logo in front partially removed. Test results: placed in a sealed room with the subject was a table on which were a loaded Jericho Baby Eagle 9mm handgun, a grill lighter, and a hatchet. D690 chose to wear the cap backward for the test. Potential effects of this decision on the outcome of the test are unknown. Subject expressed reluctance to touch any of the objects on the table for several hours. Food and water were provided as necessary. After 4 hours of general inactivity, subject picked up the handgun and examined it. While holding it at roughly eye level, the weapon discharged into D690's forehead, where the size adjustment band would have been. The round exited the subject near the part of the hat with the missing part of the logo. Subjects: D736, a 22-year-old white male. D771, a 23-year-old white male. Article: burgundy striped sweater vest, dating from 1973. Imperfections: article seemed to have been partially eaten by moths, several large holes in the front of the sweater. Test results: D736 was asked by researching staff to wear the sweater vest, which he did under duress. D771 was given a loaded handgun out of sight of the other test participant and instructed to, on a given signal, fire all 6 shots in the direction of D736. After doing so, it was noted that every shot fired passed through one of the holes in the sweater vest, leaving the clothing intact and killing D736. Firearm retrieved. Surviving subject transported back to quarters. Subject: D771, A 23-year-old white male. Article: Sweater vest from above trial, imperfections. Same as mentioned. Test results. D771 was this time placed in an empty room. Dimensions 15 meters by 15 meters by 15 meters. Only objects in the enclosure were lights overhead. Subject initially complained of boredom, then lay on his back and went to sleep. After 2 hours and 14 minutes, 2 of the fluorescent light tubes in the ceiling suddenly dislodged and fell. Both landed squarely on holes in the sweater, shattering upon impact. One of the tubes broke into jagged pieces that impaled D771 in several areas, but only again through gaps already present in the sweater vest. Subject's vitals persisted for another 6 minutes, then ceased. Further testing locations will be selected to minimize possible damage to the surrounding area. Subject: Dr. Unplanned experiment. An unidentified individual left an article from SCP-025 on Dr. desk that looked similar to an item of his own clothing. Any information about this incident and/or the perpetrator of same should be reported immediately to senior staff. Article: Lightweight scarf, dyed a number of colors, imperfections. Heavily pulled seam caused scarf to be considerably shorter and tighter in the middle. Test results. According to his itinerary, Dr. wearing the item from SCP-025 was en route to the enclosure of SCP for routine testing. However, he diverged from his intended path and began in a direction towards an entirely separate wing of the facility. Subject then entered the enclosure of SCP-173 without gathering accompaniment or following safety procedures, and, upon hearing the door closing, blinked. Cause of death listed as strangulation resulting from a crushed windpipe. Subject: D802, a 30-year-old Hispanic female. Article: 1980s Flashdance-style white shirt. Imperfections: right shoulder removed, left sleeve completely cut off, entire bottom hem shredded. Test results. Data expunged. All present were presumed infected, then quarantined, and data expunged. All further tests involving 1980s-era fashion have been postponed indefinitely due to the expenditures and safety hazards presented by the aforementioned experiment. Full cleanup estimated to take an additional weeks. Further testing authorized, results now awaiting declassification.